Game week 20 team selection with Salah and Son going off to AFCON and Asia Cup from game week 21 onwards. Rolling the transfer makes a lot of sense. However, I think there's one player that is absolutely essential going into this game week, and I think I'm going to pull the trigger on him, and I will reveal that in this video. So as always, please do drop a like on this video and smash that subscribe button. Without further ado, let's get into today's video. So I'm looking for a big game week 20 performance here because game week 19 was tough to say the least. My rank hasn't been updated fully yet, but it looks like I'm going to be around 230k, which is the smallest of red arrows. So this is the game week where I need big returns. And look at the goalkeeper and defenders for game week 20. First up in goal, we have Areola at home against Brighton. It's either him or Dubravka away against Liverpool. And it's typical, the weeks that I have benched Areola, he has come in with monster hauls. Game week 19 was no different with that 10-point haul. But end of the day, we weren't starting Areola away against Arsenal unless he was your only playing goalkeeper. So congratulations to anybody that did start him. But this week, hopefully, he will actually continue this run of clean sheets at home against a free scoring Brighton team. So I'm not feeling too confident, but he is going to be the choice for my team. Moving into defence. Now, again, it's worth noting this team that I'm showing you is if I was to roll the free transfer, because that is still a possibility, but I am also going to show you the team which I'm likely going to play with a transfer. So I would go with a back four if I did roll my transfer. Porro at home against Bournemouth. Porro obviously is a monster on bonus points. We saw that in game week 19. So even though Spurs are horrific for clean sheets, and I'm expecting them to concede once again against Bournemouth, he is one of those that all he needs is an assist, and he's going to be in and amongst the bonus points. So more than happy to start him at home against Bournemouth, but clean sheet is very unlikely. Trent at home against Newcastle, again, is a clean sheet likely? I'm not necessarily thinking that, but from an offensive perspective, he is fantastic and again, amazing on the bonus points. If they were to keep a clean sheet, he is going to get max bonus. I'm almost certain of it. And last up, the double Arsenal defence. Now, again, prior to game week 19, I was really confident about playing these, and I still am. I know Arsenal conceded 2 against West Ham, but the numbers weren't too bad defensively. And away against Fulham, I don't think it's a bad option playing them. I think it's quite a good differential, actually going for the double up of Saliba and Gabriel. But as I mentioned, this game week feels like there's one fixture that we need to go for, as there could be a huge score. So these two could be sacrificed onto the bench if I do make my planned transfer. But for now, they're in the team. Moving into the midfield, and I'm hoping we do get a goodbye present from Son and Salah, because a reminder, from game week 21 onwards, they both are going to be unavailable. Son going to the Asia Cup and Salah going to AFCON. So I'm not going to be selling them this week. It's worth noting, if Haaland was available for game week 20, I know a lot of FPL managers are planning on selling Salah at home against Newcastle to fund the move back to Erling Haaland for that brilliant home fixture against Sheffield United. But it sounds like he isn't going to be available for the weekend. And I'm quite glad, to be honest with you, because I would have felt very uncomfortable selling Mo Salah at home against Newcastle. We saw Newcastle's defensive problems against Nottingham Forest, and Newcastle away are a different beast to at home. So I think this is a really good fixture for Liverpool, and I do think they have the ability to score goals against this Newcastle defence. So Salah is definitely staying in the team, and I'm hoping he can deliver a few goals as a parting gift. And the same is going to apply for Son. Spurs were not good on the eye against Brighton, but they did have their moments, and I always back them to score. I know a few people might be thinking sell all Spurs assets, but for me, Son is definitely in for this Bournemouth fixture. But they are playing against one of the most in-form teams of the league right now, so I'm hoping Son can deliver. And I think if you own Richarlison, Kulusevski, you still play him in this Bournemouth fixture. Now, the other two, Palmer away against Luton, I'm not so confident about. I think this is actually quite a big debate between Palmer versus Gordon, because I think the space is going to be there for Gordon to attack as Trent inverts into the midfield or in that quarterback role. So I think Palmer isn't going to get loads of opportunities against Luton with that low block. Historically, Chelsea have really struggled against teams like this. So I am hoping Palmer comes straight back into the side. I expect he will, coming off on the right-hand side for Madueke. That is probably my expectation. And obviously, he's been one of Chelsea's best players. So I would be surprised if he isn't coming back into that team. But I will keep tabs on the Friday press conferences in case there's any sort of niggles in that Chelsea team. And Saka away against Fulham. Time is ticking for Saka. I watched the full game. I know people are panicking about Saka. I thought he'd done quite well, but my only issue is Saka very wide, putting in a lot of deliveries, being very much more of a chance creator. And Odegaard felt like he was just one position closer to the goal. It felt like Saka was out here, Odegaard was a bit more infield and in better opportunities for goals. So I am keeping tabs on this. I don't think Saka to Odegaard is desperate. It's not a planned transfer for me. But if I was building a wildcard team right now, I would be inclined to go to Odegaard rather than Bukayo Saka. But let's hope he delivers away against Fulham. So this midfield, even if I roll the transfer or make my move, is going to probably stick with these four. Gordon on the bench, but I do think there is opportunities for him in that fixture away against Liverpool. Moving into the forwards, and we have Watkins and Dominic Solanke. Solanke right now being the man at the moment. With the last few game weeks, it is almost impossible to even consider selling him. And that is the big problem right now in FPL. I think a lot of people are looking to bring Erling Haaland back in game week 21 and are talking about selling Dominic Solanke. But right now, he's just ticking all of the boxes. He's amazing value. He's guaranteed game time. He's the talisman in this Bournemouth team. And Bournemouth right now are a team that are scoring goals regularly. And it doesn't really make any sense for me to be selling Dominic Solanke anytime soon. I know he's an easy enabler for you to be able to bring up to an Erling Haaland, but this is the definition of a player that is just going to tick over throughout the season. And until we see something like a decline from Bournemouth or maybe from Dominic Solanke's numbers, I'm just not even considering selling him. I was one of those managers that sold Watkins weeks ago for somebody like a Darwin Núñez, who I felt was a bit more of an upside chasing pick, and I got burnt really, really bad. And both of these players, I think, are just going to stay in my team long term. I think I am going to have to pivot this team to a 3-4-3 formation because Erling Haaland needs to make his way into the team eventually, but I just don't think it makes any sense selling either of these. These are the sort of players, the kind of bread and butter players that we need in our FPL teams. And I could easily do, let's say, a Solanke to an Nkunku because I see some good moments, but Chelsea incredibly inconsistent from a goal scoring perspective. Nkunku's minutes really difficult to predict. I don't think it's necessary. So these two are in my team regardless. But as I mentioned, there's one transfer that I'm planning, and it is going to involve upgrading one of my bench players to one of the best players I think you can own this weekend. So let's cover that off now. So here's my planned Game Week 20 transfer. I am looking to do Mabama up until Julian Alvarez. Now, as we mentioned, we have loads of money in the bank because we sold Erling Haaland a couple of weeks ago. I spent a bit of it on Trent last week, and I'm looking to spend the majority of it now on Julian Alvarez. Now, the fixture at home against Sheffield United is just unbelievable. I think Sheffield United are probably more difficult than what they were maybe a month ago, but at the Etihad, I think Man City were brilliant, back to their best against Everton, and I'm just expecting a comfortable victory from Man City. Now, rolling the transfer, as I mentioned, in Game Week 20 makes a lot of sense because I need 2 free transfers to sell Son and sell Mohamed Salah, but sometimes there are a couple of fixtures where they are just worth changing your plans and going for the upside chasing. And I have this gut feeling that Julian Alvarez at home against Sheffield United is that game. Now, of course, I could get burnt from this decision, but I want a piece of that Man City attack. And I think going into the game with nobody is just not ideal. Now, Phil Foden is the other one that I definitely have eyes on. I would love to bring him in, but a midfield transfer just doesn't make sense for my team in Game Week 20. So good work for anyone that owns Foden in advance. I think he's going to have a mega haul. But Julian Alvarez, I feel, makes a lot of sense. I get a piece of that Man City attack. And I also think over the next few weeks, it can actually work well for my team. So that is how the team is. I'm pretty much like 90% sure it's going to look. And I'm currently putting the captaincy on Mo Salah. This is the real difficult one. What an amazing game week for captains. You could go anywhere from Mo Salah, Son at home against Bournemouth, Alvarez at home against Sheffield United, Watkins, even maybe Trent Alexander-Arnold. So there are some phenomenal options this week, and it feels very much, if you get the right captain, is going to be the difference between a red and a green arrow. But I'm controversially going on Mo Salah right now. I'm just expecting Liverpool to win this big game, and I think Mo Salah always steps up in these fixtures. But again, that is subject to change. So that is my planned transfer, Mabama to Alvarez. The team will look like this. I want to quickly show you now how my team is going to look between game weeks 20 and 22 with my intended Erling Haaland move, because you're probably wondering, how am I going to get to him with this proposed team? So here's how my game week 20 team is looking with that Julian Alvarez transfer. And by the way, a shout out to Fantasy Football Fix for their free Google Chrome extension called FPL Plus. It basically syncs up with the free site and you get a planner. It's unbelievable. But that is how my team would look with 0.8 million in the bank. Now, looking ahead to game week 21, because obviously we need to see how we are going to get rid of Son and Salah, I would have one free transfer available and 0.8 million in the bank. And the priority has to be getting rid of both Salah and Son. So we're going to have to take a -4 in this game week. So my plan would be to sell Son for Jared Bowen, who has a Sheffield United away fixture, which looks pretty good. And then I would look to sell Salah. Now, this is the big deliberation right now because somebody like a Richarlison just makes a lot of sense. I still get coverage in that Spurs attack and I still back them to score in most game weeks. But of course, Richarlison's been coming off in pretty much every game. I would expect him to have better game time once Son does go because they have limited options who can replace him on the field. But I am a little bit concerned that maybe Richarlison just can't do 90 minutes week in, week out. So that is something that we do need to monitor. But realistically, I do think Richarlison is going to come into my team for some Spurs attacking coverage. And then my team would look like this pretty much with 8.7 million in the bank, but a -4 taken. Now, the big deliberation this game week in 21 is going to be, do we make another -4 to bring in Erling Haaland? Now, to remind ourselves with the fixtures for Man City, we're expecting Haaland to be out of game week 20, but game week 21 is basically 2 weeks after game week 20. So it's a lot of time for Erling Haaland to basically be training and to be fully fit for that fixture. However, for a -4 to sell already a Man City attacker for another one in Erling Haaland for a game away against Newcastle, I think just doesn't make a lot of sense. I know I'm going to want Erling Haaland eventually and it could come to bite me in the bum, but I just think holding Julian Alvarez for one more week, unless there was an indication that he was going to be benched for that fixture, just makes a lot of sense for my team. So I would look to hold off buying Haaland for one more week. We then go to game week 22, and then the priority is just going to be about buying Erling Haaland. So then we would use our one free transfer, sell Julian Alvarez for Erling Haaland, and we would then look like a team like this. I probably would try and maybe get Gabriel in or a Gordon, but realistically, I think that team probably picks itself. Maybe Palmer out, Gabriel in. And I'm pretty happy with that team long term. I think the issue is going to be come game week 24 when we need to bring Salah and Son back into our teams. But again, I think we just need to live in the moment sometimes and we address that situation later down the line. Who knows what might happen? If Egypt win the AFCON, then they might be out partying and stuff. I mean, Salah might not come back for another week or so. So I think we just address the game week in front of you and then we just plan for Salah and Son eventually when they are back. So those are my transfers between game week 20 and 22. Hopefully that's give you a bit of help on how you might navigate your weeks. Yes, guys, okay, that is going to wrap up my game week 20 team selection. Hopefully it's provided some value to you guys. As always, if you want to stay up to date with all of my transfers, make sure you are subscribed to the channel, as I will be doing a deadline live stream before obviously the deadline with an updated team. So make sure you are subscribed to the channel. As always, thanks so much for joining in. I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Cheers.